What is good, guys? M.V.K here, back again. Welcome to another edition, and it's been some time, but there's been a reason for it. I have been sculpting and crafting what the opinion spot's going to be about and what topics to do on the opinion spot. So I apologize for that. But now we're back, and today, guys, we're going to talk about what has been going on in the world of Marvel under Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. So if you haven't read the article of under Variety News or any kind of article from any reliable comic website source, Kevin Feige has gone on record to say that after Secret Wars, there is going to be a reset on the MCU. Not a reboot, but a reset. And the reset is going to include a lot of things that I'm going to talk about, but a few of them may spark some interesting tales and interesting views on how people feel about this. So let's get started into that. So for anybody who doesn't know, basically, guys, Kevin Feige has stated that their 2027, the MCU timeline becomes one singular timeline, and it's more of a reset, not a reboot. And Kevin Feige even says in the article that reboot is a scary word. When you hear that word, people get scared. And let's be real, that is true. I'll leave the link in the description down below for anybody who wants to read the article. I read it through Variety News as well. But with that being said, yes, he has stated that after Secret Wars, there is going to be a reset. And of course, that's when we are officially going to get the Children of the Atom, the X-Men. With that being said, also, he even states that those characters may change. Let's start with the Secret Wars. When they announced Avengers Secret Wars, I instantly said to myself, they are not going to do the original Secret Wars where the Beyonder took what represents good in the Marvel Universe and what represents evil in the Marvel Universe and have them clash it out to play this intricate game with him to see who is better. I instantly knew they were not going to go there, and that right there kind of made me a little sad because I actually would love to see that, because that would have been almost the chef's kiss perfect opportunity to bring villains back from the dead and see them interact again. But unfortunately not. But soon as they stated, we're doing the Secret Wars, I instantly said to myself, and I've done it, and you guys know, if you've been following, you know I did a video on this, and I said, they're going to do they're going to take influences from Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars from 2015. And this, even now, reading this article makes it crystal clear that they're taking influences from that event than the previous Secret War events. And it makes sense, because once they said the MCU is going to be kind of a reset for characters and for the universe, I was like, yep. And I'm fine with that, because if you remember in that event, it was the conversions. And what have they been doing in most of these movies? They've been talking about the conversions and things like that. The conversions of different universes in the Marvel, they were colliding, they were coming together, they were going to destroy each other. And that's the reason why we don't have the original Ultimate Universe, which numbering was called 1610. That's why Miles and his family are in the 616 universe now in the comics, and so forth and so forth. That's why now there's the new Ultimate Universe, which is called 6160. I don't know why it's called that. That should have been called 6162 or something like that. That's just personally me, but I digress. But the point about it is that that's why those things happen. It makes sense. It makes sense that they would do the same thing in the the movie section of Marvel. Why not reboot or bring characters into one universe? Because the question that we all have been asking for a lot of these things, when they stated, what was the biggest question we started asking with the X-Men? Let's use the X-Men, for example. Where have they been all this year? Where have they been? How come mutants haven't been around? And a lot of times I was coming up with hypothetical theories on like where maybe the X-Men have always been around, but I've always said maybe the X-Men, one of my theories was maybe the X-Men was always around doing their thing and everything like that, but Professor Xavier mind wiped the whole universe, the whole Earth, so nobody knows about them. It's not a stretch because he could do that, but no. So it does make sense of how they are going to bring in these characters, and it makes sense that yes, okay, now we're going to get the reboot. Now the mutants and things like that will be more integrated into this new universe where it wouldn't be a stretch to believe now. Like, okay, it makes sense. And you could say, well, they kind of was teasing mutants. They kind of teased mutants with Kamala and everything like that. Yeah, they have. But at the same time, it's like she's the only one. Well, Namor. They did announce that Namor was a mutant too. But the point is that it makes sense. Now, throughout the article, Mr. Feige talks about also that though this will be a reset, and it will also be a reset for certain characters too. And he names two in particular that makes me I'm like, but also like, well, this is going to have maybe a very cross-pollination effect on fans. And one of those characters, two of the characters that he talks about is Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Steve Rogers. Basically saying that, yes, when this happens, Steve Rogers is going to be recasted and Tony Stark is going to be recasted. That right there, as soon as I read that article, I was like, I wonder how fans outside that are just the cinematic universe watchers, how are they going to feel on that? Because let's be real. This falls into the same category as Wolverine. I've stated for years that whenever they recast Wolverine, and it particularly does imply 2027 is when all that recasting is going to happen. How will people feel about it? And may God have mercy on that actor who takes up that role, because they have huge shoes to fill. Because let's be real, Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect casting for Tony Stark. Are there other actors that could play that role? There were a couple. There are other actors I could see playing Tony Stark. I can see there are some other actors that can play him, but could they play him like Robert Downey Jr.? And I don't want them to, but there are actors. And then, of course, Steve Rogers. To me, Chris Evans captured everything I wanted with Steve Rogers. And I've said it before, and I've stated it many times. Jack Kirby and Joe Simon would be proud of them. More importantly, they didn't mention it. Kevin Feige didn't mention it, but I'm assuming this also means recasting Black Panther. And I'm assuming that, but it makes me wonder, will this reset also mean recasting other characters that died? That's where I am a little scared, because some of the deaths meant something. They meant a lot, and they meant a lot to people, and it means, okay, now you're negating their deaths in a sense. But then you got to also look at but Tony died. How many years now has it been since Tony died? Natasha died. How many years has it been? Steve, his one is just really funky with me, because didn't die. And then all of a sudden, when you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier, then they're stating that Steve's gone. When? What funeral? You think Steve Rogers dead wouldn't have like a big funeral and celebration of this man? Are you crazy? That really was pissed me off. And there were things that I felt they could have did with old Steve like perfectly. And this is one thing that I'm hoping that this reset does. They reset, that means S.H.I.E.L.D. comes back. Because I hate that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not around. Not just in movies, but also in the comics. I hate that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not there. I miss seeing those agents in that dark blue and silver boots and gloves, the shield uniform. I miss seeing that. I'm tired of seeing, well, this person was a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and there's no Nick Fury around. Those are certain things that I'm wondering, will this universe do? Will they do in terms of resetting? These characters like that, that's going to be a huge shoes to fill. But at the same time, also, Kevin Feige even goes into detail like, well, it's similar to how we look at James Bond. He talks about that in the article too, about James Bond. There have been how many different James Bond? They're not playing the same James Bond, but it is a Bond, and Bond is 007 is more of a title than the name, in a sense. So yes, and he does have a point, and I can see, if you read the article, I can see where Mr. Feige is coming from. He goes on to talk about, look at what DC did with Superman. Great. He did, and he praises them. Great. He was great. So I can understand that, but one of the things that nobody can deny when it comes to the MCU is that for many times there are too many people that love this universe, but they're also too damn selfish. They're selfish. They're fickle, and they think that everything under MCU is supposed to be blockbuster and a great. Everything is supposed to be on par, on point. Nobody could touch it. Sometimes y'all need to really pull the reins back and be like, well, you don't know this character. Odds are, most of the viewers of the MCU don't know a thing about many of the characters that came out after Endgame. How many people you knew were talking about, oh man, I want a Shang-Chi movie. Oh man, I want to see the Black Knight. I want to see the Eternals. I want to see this. I want to see it. How many people you knew were saying that? Huh? How many? I was saying Shang-Chi for a long time, and I got my wish, and it was great. But at the same time, there are more average viewers who just watch the movies that don't know the source and read the source material. But for me, I'm one of those that do. And yes, I'm one of those people that want to see all the Marvel characters brought to life. That is my biggest dream to see. I want to see that. And if this reset is kind of to bring that into, then that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I'm not scared. And I'm not, because I know there's going to be instances where people say, when you see that, instantly when they see that new guy come down in some kind of one of the many armors of Iron Man, that mask comes up and you see people, oh, that's not RGJ. Or they're instantly gonna, or like anything, we're instantly going to merit and compare the two. Same thing with Steve Rogers. But with that, it also makes me wonder with Kevin Feige, when he said that, I'm like, okay, if you're going to reboot Steve Rogers, you're going to recast him, what does that mean for Sam? What does that mean for him? Are y'all going to play up more like in the real comics, in the source material, that there are two Captain Americas, or will they still have it where Steve passed the torch to Sam and he's doing something else? I'm hoping it's the latter, but if it is, they're going to be two Captain Americas, fine. I don't mind that. If you want to play more off the source, fine. but it does make me wonder with the recasting. How much of the recasting will there be? Will it be just those two, or will we see others? Will we, like I said, will we see Tony? Will we see Iron Man, Steve Rogers, Cap, Black Widow, T'Challa? Will they recast characters like that? Will they recast, actors that, will they recast like Thor, or other actors? Maybe they want, Thor now to be more like the Thor in comic universe, or not. What happens to actors that will they keep certain actors? That's where where I'm a little confused on. Even with him saying it's a reset, it makes me wonder, okay, you're gonna reset them, but who? How far? What? Who? What? Which characters? Because that's going to be that's a key notion. That's the key notion with that, because I'm telling you right now, we know that there's going to be characters, there are going to be people that are going to look at this and be like, boo, like nobody asked for this, and there's going to be people like that. But at the same time, you got to also look at it from a point of view of like, hey, like, if this is what they wanted to do, then fine. But also, again, it goes back to the Secret Wars. Because in the Secret Wars storyline, there was a lot of resetting in that. Again, what did I just talk about? Miles coming over to the 616 and him being integrated into the 616 universe, his origin, all this stuff was now a part of the 616. It makes sense. And it makes a lot of sense for why they're doing this. I would not prefer a whole reboot. No. If it's just a reset and one singular universe where there's no like branching off like to a degree, fine. I don't mind the multiverse Earths, because that's Marvel. Marvel does multiverse just like DC. DC just does it Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3, Earth 4, Earth 4. Marvel does it Earth 616, Earth 982. Like, those are they go a little more deeper with the numbering, and you understand where they come from. Earth 982 is where May Parker and all them are from. So it's kind of like a possible future. But at the same time, this has me interested. It has me very on the cusp of like, ooh, where's this gonna go in 2 years? It's 2 years, because that's when the reset really happens. 2027. It does. If it scares you, and I can understand anybody's concern and be like, well, then, because I can understand that. If somebody comes to me and say, but then it's like, well, Chris, what does, that takes away Natasha's death, or that takes away Tony's death, his sacrifice. I can understand it, but then you got to also look, but, well, they already, for Iron Man, I'm going to kind of cut people off. I'm like, well, first of all, they already bringing back RDJ right now as a different character, but still, I get it. His right there, that already kind of negates your statement to a certain degree. Like, well, they already brought him, they're bringing him back. But with that being said, this is interesting. I'm very interested because this is 2 years is where the reset happens. 2 years is where we officially really get the Children of the Atom, the X-Men, and everything now in one universe. There's a part of me but majority, if you would ask me on percentage wise, Chris, how excited are you? I would say 90% excited, 10% concerned. There you go. But with that being said, guys, I want to thank everybody for listening to me run my mouth off and give my opinions on this subject and things like that. I appreciate it as always. You tell me what you guys think of this. Like I said before, I will leave the article in the link down below if you want to read it, or you could just Google it yourself and things like that and read it. But if you want to save some time, I'll leave a link in the description down below. To me, like I said, I'm on board. Makes sense. But I can understand if anybody comes to me and say, I'm still concerned, I understand your concern. But with that being said, you guys take care. And this was the first opinion spot of 2025. I got more topics down the line, guys. Don't worry. And I will see you guys next time. Deuces.